two lines going into their breaker. The problem is the connection point.
I mean, this year, probably back 18 months or so, things kind of changed a little bit, but I noticed that buyers have become more picky.
So that's probably the worst thing, dead animals, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
it's not all glorious, but we love doing it. It was kind of scary. So.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Speaking of scary, all right, here we are for another edition of the Bill Rhodes Real Estate Podcast. Today, I've got my very, very good friend, Noah Franks from AlliancePro Home Inspection. Noah, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Grateful
Yes,
for the
sir.
opportunity.
We are happy that you are here. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in the home inspection business.
So 15-year career of a structural and electrical draftsman.
Okay.
And then I just followed my heart after a recent flip. Started in 2016, pretty well full-time, jumped right into the frying pan, and then started my own company in 2019. So we've been at it for 5 strong years, have multiple inspectors now, so do a good bit of volume, and very happy, very thankful for people like you who give us the referral, and we're just happy to be here, honestly.
Man, that's awesome. And I guess home inspection, you know, we went through that whole thing in like 2020 where it was just gangbusters. You guys grew pretty quickly, didn't you?
We had to scale pretty quick due to the volume of work. But actually, it's the inverse. So when that was crazy, we actually were sitting on the sidelines because everything was so just, above asking, 20, 30 above ask in lieu of inspections. Wow. And this year, things are slowing down, but not for us. This has actually been our highest productive year ever.
How about that?
I know on the real estate side has been a little slow, interest rates rising, supply is still low, inventory is still low. But for us, it's been as hard as we can go. We got my guys doing 3 a days. We're doing weekends, just trying to keep up and survive, honestly.
And I've seen that in the couple years ago when they had the whole crazy over ask, no inspections, that kind of thing. Things have slowed down, and I have noticed that buyers are becoming, this year, probably back 18 months or so, things kind of changed a little bit, but I noticed that buyers have become more picky. They are not out there waiving inspections, waiving appraisals. They are becoming more and more picky. So you, as a home inspector, what are some of the common things that you see over and over and over? Now, we're in the upstate of South Carolina, so we have certain issues that maybe other parts of the country have different issues. What are some of the most common things that you see in our area that seems to be a recurring theme over and over?
It's always crawl space issues. If it's not a newer house on a slab, it's guaranteed you're going to have crawl space issues. Either with fungus, with just pest activity, broken sewer lines with sewage under the crawl space, broken water lines that nobody has any idea about.
Right.
Just stuff in the attic that people rarely go into their attic. They have no idea that their flashing is leaking around the chimney and it's running down into the wall. We had an experience with that recently. So we're doing a lot of new constructions right now, just a lot of punch list stuff. They're getting ready to sign on the dotted line on Friday to buy the house, and the house still needs more work.
Yeah.
There's still more things that need to be done. So, and nobody knows unless you get the inspection done. So just overall protecting people for a wise choice. They actually have time to get the inspections now and to do the due diligence.
Sure.
And with the interest rates, people are being more picky and they're being more thorough because they're actually given the time to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a great time to buy, honestly, because you actually have time to do your inspections and do your due diligence. Yeah. Make sure to get everything done for you.
So crawl spaces, huh?
Yes.
How do you like going in crawl spaces, Noah?
It's not fun. It's not the best part of the job. But just like a couple Christmas, we're going into Christmas now. A couple Christmases ago, family had the beautiful Christmas scene, Christmas tree, cocoa by the fireplace. Then we go in the crawl space and it's a cesspool.
Oh, no.
Had a broken sewer line. So you're up here thinking everything's great. You have no idea what in your crawl space is actually seeping up into your interior air, and you're breathing that. Wow. And they had no clue. Brand new house with a disconnected sewer line that was never glued.
Yeah.
I don't know how it got through Greenville County through the codes because they have to do a pressure test on them, but there was no glue at all. And just
unbelievable.
Yeah. So that's probably the worst thing, dead animals, that kind of stuff. But it's not all glorious, but we love doing it. So.
Yeah. While I'm thinking about it, you mentioned codes. So you're doing inspections on new construction. You're also doing inspections on existing properties. And in our area, you might be looking at a 50 or a 80-year-old house. As far as like, do you in an inspection report, let's just say it's a 50-year-old house, do you mention code and that kind of stuff? I know a lot of people come to me and they say, well, this is not up to code. Explain to a little bit about on an older house, does it or does it not have to be a code kind of thing? Is there anything like that? Do you mention that in your reports?
Yeah, so home inspector is not a code enforcer.
Okay.
We have no idea which codes took effect at which county. Codes are not state by state, it's county by county, sometimes city by city.
Sure.
So there's no way to know exactly when that code become enforced. Now, we are safety, and we will tell you that, yeah, the laundry room doesn't have GFCI, recommend you putting that in just for safety issues. So a seller of a 1950s house is not required to upgrade to today's 2024 standards.
Right.
And we just make that note inside of our report that, hey, it doesn't have it, just to let you know, recommend you upgrade it if you want to upgrade to current standards.
So you more note safety issues, hazards, things like that, more than bringing up to not a lot of people the discussion when we're going over reports is, oh, is this up to code? Is that up to code? Well, the home inspection doesn't really have anything to do with code enforcement. It is more safety and hazard type things.
Yeah, rafters being toe-nailed together without a ridge beam, spacing on rafters, spacing on floor joists, can cause some waviness of the roof. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with it, it's just how they built it back in the 60s.
Sure.
And so we just note stuff like that. You may have a little bit of a floor bounce because of your floor spacing. It's not the correct distance. And so we'll definitely put that in the report, let everybody know that we noticed it, we saw it, but this is kind of what's going on. This is why it's doing that.
Yeah.
As long as it's still structurally sound, that's what we're looking for.
So when you're doing a home inspection, this is kind of a funny question. Do the buyers normally come to a home inspection? How do you like to handle, like, let's just say my buyer calls you, no, we want a home inspection. It's going to be 2:00 on Thursday. Do the buyers come to the inspection? How do you feel about that?
We love seeing them.
Yeah.
We love to put everything in the report that they want in there.
Yeah.
We want to represent them in the best way. But we do ask that they come near the end.
Okay.
There have been some issues. We've had issues. I go to a home inspector luncheon once a month with other home inspectors in town. There have been issues with people causing damage, falling through the roof, and then circling back and trying to sue the home inspector for allowing them to do that. Even though the home inspector said, please do not come into this attic. They came into the attic anyway, straddled the rafter, repaired the damage, but then they try to sue the home inspector for allowing them to do that.
Wow.
We work with our attorney. We've got a huge release of liability. We document their time that they're inside the house to let them know that, for one, you're kind of distracting the inspector. You got to give them room to breathe and room to do their job. Any type of, look at this settling crack over here, what is this scuff over there? You're getting us off our routine and causing a distraction. And so you're actually lowering the quality of your home inspection.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So if you come at the end, then we can do the summary. Then we can have the casual conversation and walk them through and introduce them to their new house.
Neat. How long is normally on a, let's just say a 2,500 square foot house, 3,000 square foot house? What's the time frame on a home inspection generally?
Yeah, so right there we're cruising around 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay, so if you got a 2:00 appointment, you are welcome to come to the inspection at 4:30.
Yeah.
Don't come before then.
Right.
Come right at the end of the home inspection if you're the buyer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've actually got a rule with our company. I don't know if other people are doing it. Anything over 4,000 square feet actually gets 2 inspectors.
Really?
Because we want to be in and out. We don't want to disturb the seller and cause a big ruckus with that.
Sure.
And then to be timely about it, the bigger the house, the more time it takes. And so we just have a general rule: anything over 4,000 gets 2 guys.
Okay.
The company makes less profit, don't care about that. We just want to do a good job. But
Sure.
you got to do things in a timely manner. And so that just gives us time to go through it, and then we can still do the summary at the end with the client and talk about it.
Okay. Well, that's really good info.
Yeah.
When you guys are doing inspections, what are some of the things that might not be inspected? I'll tell you a quick story. Years ago, I had the buyers, we sold a house. They bought the house. They called me about 2 or 3 months later, and they said, Bill, we got a problem. And I said, well, what's the matter? I said, well, we changed out the refrigerator. They pulled out the refrigerator, and all the floor and all that stuff, their water line had been leaking forever and ever. And they got, we go back to the home inspector and ask them, well, the home inspector did not pull out the refrigerator. So there are limitations on home inspections. What are some of the things that you don't inspect when you're doing something like that? You don't pull out refrigerators from the wall, do you?
No.
Okay.
Don't do that. Nothing with the washing machine. We don't pull out insulation to look at floor joists and floor sheathing.
Sure.
We don't dig attic insulation out to look at the drywall. There's not enough time for us to do that. We don't inspect anything behind a wall. We're not scoping the wall with the camera. And so there is some things that are hidden that the human just can't see. We're not
Sure.
Superman. We don't have X-ray vision.
Yeah.
We do as best as we can with what we're given. And so if a house is packed full of personal property, that also limits our inspection. Can't check all the windows, all the receptacles. So when you move in, you may find one or two that don't work, but that doesn't mean we didn't try. It just means it was packed full of personal stuff.
Yeah.
The biggest one we had was a guy moved in and went to go use his laundry for the first time and hook up the washer. There was no water on the washer. And so the flipper had did a thing where they, for whatever reason, cut those lines and they didn't put them back. Well, now we don't check the washer connections because it doesn't have a basin. So unless we're carrying around a 5-gallon bucket, we're not going to open
Turn
those
on the
water
water and
lines
look
because it's
at
going
it.
to make a mess on the floor.
Sure.
So that was a big thing. I helped him out on that. It wasn't really our fault because we clearly say in our report we don't check that, but it was still an issue, and I want to make sure and help him and get him straight. So, but yeah, just washing machine. But everything else, if we have access to it, we're checking it.
Yeah.
If we're given access, we will run it. Trash compactors, wine coolers.
Yeah.
All that's a little bit outside the scope. If we can figure out how to get that irrigation system to run, we will turn that sucker on and run those sprinklers. It's not required of us, but we try to do it, especially if it's a rainbird. We're probably familiar with those.
Okay.
So we give it our best to test everything for our client, whatever we can get our hands on.
So buyers need to have a reasonable expectation that not every square inch and every behind the wall and floor joist and this and that is going to be inspected.
Yeah.
You can only do so much at a home inspection.
2.5, 3 hours is all we got.
It's not code enforcement.
Right.
You're not pulling out appliances, checking behind them, things like that. You're checking crawl spaces, attics, roof, that kind of stuff that you can see with the human eye without completely tearing out holes and punching through things.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this. So if, let's just say there was something on the home inspection, do you guys do re-inspects?
Yeah.
Like if we find problems a week or so and then we get it, the seller gets it fixed, do you guys come back and re-inspect?
Yeah, so I was wanting to touch on that earlier, I forgot. So in 2021, we were just lucky to get the inspection. And so we would go and do it. And then we didn't see any re-inspections at all. This year, 23 and definitely 24, the re-inspections have gone through the roof because people want that value and they want it done right.
Sure.
So we've actually had to, layer our pricing because it used to be when we would go out and do a re-inspection, it'd be 3 or 4 items, usually the bigger ticket items, the big money items, when they want those checked and they want them right. So what they have done is we go out there and it's a 3-page report. We're checking the whole report again. Yeah. And so it's taken the guys 1.5 hours, 2 hours to do a re-inspection, and they've got other jobs to get to because those are supposed to be real zippy in and out, 30, 45 minutes. And we're spending hours doing re-inspections. And so we've had to actually layer our re-inspections. The more items you want us to check, the more we need to charge to make sure and get the guys paid.
Sure.
And so it's really kind of spiraled into a different entity that I didn't really expect. But yes, they are for sure. Re-inspections are a big deal.
So you do the home inspection, the seller fixes things, and then the buyer can call you back out and say, hey, check this stuff afterwards before we go to closing.
Simple yes or no. We're not contractors. We're not HVAC. We can tell yes or no if it's fixed. Yeah. And put that on a checklist. That's no problem. We do those all the time.
That's very cool. All right. So in your standard home inspection, let's say that somebody has a really unique property or it has been through some structural changes or whatever. Is there some sort of like super duper inspect everything down to the floor joists and the nails and all that kind of stuff that you guys can do?
So not so much structural. The home inspector is going to get that anyways, but just the ancillary services.
Okay.
So, when we first started in 2019, it was just the home inspection. Sometimes you throw on a radon, definitely want to get the CO100 for the termite inspection. But now we've actually elevated to do sewer scopes, chimney scopes. We're doing well inspections. We're doing septic tank inspections. We do a long list of different type of mold services, do swabs.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we've had to elevate to kind of keep up with competition, I guess, and make sure that we're fully taking care of everything. Even just, how often do you think about your sewer line? But you need to know about that, especially if it's an older house, to know if you have issues. Orangeburg piping, cast iron piping, clay pipe. You need to know if there's something's going on with that. So we've definitely added more services. It's more work on us, on the admin, trying to get all these people out there to, setting different appointments. But we feel it's just worth it for the buyer to make sure and completely cover everything if they want us to do that. And then sometimes they don't have the financial means, and we push it in the closing for them and make sure to just cut us a check whenever you guys go to the attorney after they buy the house, and we can get it back paid.
So if there's something that comes up on the inspection, let's just say it happened one time, like there was a problem with the sewer. You guys can do the home inspection. You say, hey, I think there may be an issue. We need to look at a little bit deeper. You can kind of add on an extra sewer scope or something like that, an air quality test for things like that.
Yeah, after they get the report, we can come back and even do more things.
Oh, okay.
So you start with the basic home inspection. And we're going to tell you, hey, this chimney is extra sooty. If you're going to use this, like for real, and burn wood, it wouldn't hurt to have the chimney scope to make sure it's good. And then sure enough, they scope it, they find breaks in the flue or whatever, now you've got a major repair. Same thing with the, if we have a basement toilet that's just not flushing correctly, it's a little bit slow, hey, it wouldn't hurt to kind of check on this toilet. And then sure enough, we find roots or whatever, it's getting clogged with toilet paper, and here we go down that path. So we can we put stuff in the report, and then you can kind of add on extra things later.
Okay.
And we do disclaimers in there also, like we are not checking the sewer line from this house to this road. We tell them that.
Sure.
We are not going, we're at the chimney looking up. We take a drone and we look down, and we're not checking the flue in between those 2 points. And so we disclose that also. And usually it kind of wakes people up like, oh, I thought the inspector was doing it. Well, no, we're limited. Like I said, 2.5, 3 hours is max time we've got. So we don't have enough time to do all those other things. Those are additional labor that we have to put in.
All right. So you can pick and choose maybe a little a la carte services after the fact. Oh, that's really cool. All right. Very nice. When you go to a home inspection, let's talk about, tell me what's the number one thing you see over and over and over.
Loose toilet.
Loose toilet. I swear it's on every single inspection report I see. A loose toilet rocks back and forth. What kind of problems can that give?
It's a wear and tearable item. The wax ring starts to give up. It loses that distance between the flange and the bottom of the toilet. It just gets super loose with those screws. The problem is, as you use that toilet, that water will come out around that, what used to be the wax ring. It'll just soak the subfloor. And so that is actually something we try to look at and make sure and kind of peel back a little bit of insulation just to check around those toilets. If we've already been on the interior and we know that it's loose, just to double check that the floor is not rotted out.
Right.
But I could tell you 1,000% had an agent come after you going, well, why are you always, I'm tightening every toilet in Greenville. And I'm like, you got to, because it can be a major issue.
That is.
They make a synthetic ring now instead of the wax ring. That's kind of the older style. But
how long does a wax ring last?
Just, I don't know. Not very long, apparently. So,
Evidently, they've gotten
5
worse
years.
and worse. Yeah. So if you have a house and you're about to sell it, let's talk about that. This works out. This was perfect transition. If I have a listing, do you recommend possibly having a pre-inspection?
Yeah.
You guys do pre-inspections before we go to market?
We do. We give a little bit of a discount on those just to help out, because it's mainly to help out the agent so they can kind of get ahead of it.
Sure.
But the inspector, we just put a note in there and just have the inspector do a little different frame of mind. He's not just nitpicking it to death, something that a buyer wants us to do. We're just looking for big ticket items. Things are definitely going to slow you up in the transaction, because these things are going to come up either. It doesn't have to be AlliancePro. It could be anybody in town are going to find these big ticket items.
Let me tell you a story about that. I just had a couple. They were downsizing into an assisted living facility. They had a beautiful house, but they had not been in the crawl space for at least 5 years, they said. And so before I listed their house, we had a pre-listing inspection, and it was so eye-opening. The people were like, oh my gosh, we have lived here. I think 17 out of the 23 windows in the house were not functioning properly, and they ended up having to spend, I think, pretty good amount of money in the crawl space because they had some issues that were neglected and kind of deferred maintenance. So I really do like that pre-listing inspection is a really, really good thing, because you're right. If you get into a transaction and then all of a sudden this comes up 2 weeks after you've been on the market, and then you've got another problem that a hurdle, not a problem, but a hurdle you have to overcome as the seller. So a pre-listing inspection does save you a lot of, I think, worry and maybe some hand wringing, wondering what the inspection is going to show up, what's going to show up on the inspection. If you do a pre-listing inspection, you guys can do that for us.
Absolutely. So you talk about spending money, that can actually save you money, because during a transaction, when you've got a buyer on the line, everything becomes so expedite. If you kind of back up and you do it ahead of time, that gives you time to actually get real quotes.
Yeah.
We always recommend a minimum of 3. Sky's the limit. As many quotes as you want to get, you're still going to get good, better, best. And so that gives you time to negotiate and actually get the proper quote with the right company that has the quality, and you actually get it done correctly. So you can actually save money by doing that.
A pre-listing inspection is a really, really good thing. So when you do the pre-listing inspection, I know the pre-listing inspection, we just did that. The seller was able to take that report, and to your point, they called a few people. They called me. They were like, Bill, we got to fix, or what do you think we should fix? And me, as their agent, I sat down with them. We went through the report, and I said, hey, I'm going to tell you, these are my opinion that you need to be looked at and you need to be thinking about fixing, because they are going to show up. They are going to cause us a hurdle during the due diligence period. And they were so agreeable. They were so thankful, because we found these things on the front end. I was able to connect them with some trusted and great vendors, great repair people, handyman, carpenters, tradesmen that were able to go in, fix the things the right way, not in a hurry, not expediting, not calling them on us Friday afternoon and paying 3 times more for Saturday service. It really did make the transaction go so much smoother, because we had the inspection, the buyer came in, had their inspection, and the stuff that we fixed, they were so thrilled when they got the repair request, and it was just minimal little stuff. We were able to negotiate a little bit of money in closing costs, and they were done. We went on to closing and everything like that. So handling the inspection, handling the home inspection is so, so important. And I talk to my clients up front about getting that done, because either you're going to pay for it now or you're going to pay for it during the transaction. And if you're in that due diligence period, you are on a time clock. The time is ticking, and you might make some decisions, and you might have to move so quickly that you don't get the good service and the good quality that you really want to have.
Yeah, it's all about disclosure. We've been in the houses plenty of times where they slap the inspection on the kitchen counter for us because we're representing a new buyer. They've got the receipts laid out. You can see the logo. You know who did the job. You know they did a great inspection. And so you're just kind of honestly doing a back check of what that other inspection company did, just to make sure it kind of turns kind of between a regular inspection and a reinspection. It's kind of crossing a little bit to where you're doing a back check to make sure they did actually do those repairs.
Sure. All right. Double neutrals on a bus. Is that something new?
Double tap breakers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I see. That's my second thing. Double tap. That's my second thing that I see. Loose toilets and that.
Yes. People were just, when they run out of area inside the meter or the panel, they'll just double tap it because there's no extra panel room. They need to add a sub, and they don't want to do that.
Right.
So they'll just squeeze in. Now, the problem is not actually the double tap, 2 lines going into their breaker. The problem is the connection point, because electricity is microscopic and it could cause a hazard. Now, if you do pigtails and just have 1 line going in there, that's fine. You can do that inside the panel. So it's a super easy repair. It's nothing to be scared about. It's a 10-minute repair with an electrician. But now the other ones are the big, where you have the main coming in, and then they'll take something, they're running something out in the yard, and they'll just double tap that main. And there is no breaker between this and the thing out in the yard. There's no breaker at all. Those are the scary ones, where you have something running off the main, right off the power line. We see those before too. I had somebody one time had a panel they were running, God knows what, and they had the panel cover off, and they had a fan where that thing was overheating, and they were fanning it, and it was kind of scary. So
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Speaking of scary, what have you seen in a crawl space?
just live animals are the scariest. The snakes,
Really?
the possums with, the mama with a bunch of babies under a vapor barrier, and that's pretty scary. Seeing the snake skins, and then the whole time through the crawl space, you're looking for the snake, and you don't know where the snake went.
Right.
One time I went up under a house, and I lost count after 15 snake skins. I was inside of a den.
Oh my
And
Lord.
I have never seen that before or after that since.
Yeah.
And it was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Oh
and
my
you
gosh.
talking about paranoid. That was, I think, the quickest crawl space I've ever gone in and did a loop and got back out of
Yeah.
there. So,
I'm sure that was noted on the report, wasn't it? Snakeskin.
yeah. And you get up in the cliffs doing these multi-million-dollar houses. You kind of looking over your shoulder for bears and
Yeah.
I don't know, coyotes or whatever the heck lives out there. I'm a city guy, so I don't know the country lingo, but whatever the heck is out there, you're kind of looking over your shoulder, making sure something don't sneak up on you.
Right. And a lot of times those houses out in the rural more areas, sometimes they're second homes and people aren't occupying them all the time. And they might sit for a couple of months, lake houses, things like that. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. You got to watch out for wild animals, I guess.
Yeah, hardest ones are just going in, hoarder type of situations. Go in there, just getting attacked with fleas.
Oh,
having to go back out, put on your coveralls and your respirator.
Oh, my
because it's
Lord.
just the filth and the people live in all types of conditions you have no idea about. Going in behind death type of stuff, estate sales, those types of things. People having to sell because a spouse died and they can no longer afford the house. Those are just really heavy emotional tolls on us.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even really count towards the inspection part. It's a people business. And we just carry all the emotions of, just like on Star Trek, you're doing a little transponder, you're just kind of jumping in people's lives. You know what it's about, but
Sure.
it's jumping inside of somebody's life and they're going through some type of life change, hence them buying a house. And it's just having that emotional connection with them,
Sure.
good or bad, and then having to carry that home with you. I've got things inside my head that I've carried around since I started this in 2016. And it's just things that are just burned in my head that I think about sometimes. And it's just, you got, people celebrating the newlyweds, everything's happy in their eye, they're just ecstatic about their new house. And you have people going through difficult situations and they're having to sell in a hurry.
Well,
and
you do a lot of the same stuff I do. You deal with people going through the life changes, and it can wear on you. Well, Noah, man, you are a wealth of knowledge.
right.
I really, really appreciate you coming out today.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you for
sharing
the
some of that
opportunity.
knowledge and those funny stories with us, man. That is so awesome.
Absolutely.
AlliancePro Inspections, how can people reach out to you?
People normally reach us through our full-time admin, 864-663-3320. 95% of our people go through online. We have transparent pricing. I just released the 2025 price sheet. And whenever you go through, you can pick out exactly which inspector you want. I've got 5 inspectors. You have direct access to their live calendar and pick out whichever guy you want to build that relationship because
Nice.
it is a people business.
Making it easy for us.
Super
pick out
easy.
your inspector, pick out your date, pick out your time, pick out your services.
That's all she wrote.
You got it all you need. No, thank you, my friend.
Yeah,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yes, sir. Perfect.